What's up, fellow nerds? I'm JD, this is Malta5, and today I definitely have a janky one for you. I'm calling it Hibernation Servant. For whatever reason, recently I've been super interested in brewing with the card Painter's Servant, which is a deck in Legacy. It combos with Grindstone for like an instant win by milling the opponent out. But unfortunately, we don't have anything like that in Modern, but there's still some janky fun things we can do. So let me explain. Namesake card, Painter's Servant, 2-drop artifact creature. When it enters the battlefield, choose a color, and everything becomes that color. All cards that aren't on the battlefield, meaning like in hand in the deck, all spells, meaning everything on the stack, and all permanents. So just everything becomes that color. Super interesting, unique effect. And so in this deck, we are combining it with Hibernation, which reads, return all green permanents to their owner's hands. So if you name green with Painter's Servant, it reads return all permanents to their owner's hand, basically. It's a 3-mana instant speed upheaval, which is pretty ridiculous. Of course, we're jumping through some janky hoops to make it happen, but if it does happen, it'll be friggin' sweet. So that's where you get the name. Those are the 2 namesake cards. Now, so how do we take advantage of the symmetrical effect of this combination? Because Painter's Servant turns everything green, including our own stuff. And Hibernation says return all green permanents. So this is returning literally everything on the battlefield to both players' hands. So how do we take advantage of this? How do we break the symmetry? Well, the answer is Eerie Interlude. It's a 3-mana instant. Exile any number of target creatures you control. Return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So the idea here is that we cast Eerie Interlude. We choose every creature on the battlefield except for Painter's Servant. We have to leave Painter's Servant there. Otherwise, the combo doesn't work. So we choose everything else. Hopefully there's a decent amount of stuff on the board. We blink them. Well, not really blink because they disappear till the end of the turn. But we exile them till the end of turn with Eerie Interlude. Then we cast Hibernation and return Painter's Servant, all our lands, all of the opponent's stuff back to hand. So now boards are clear. And then at the end of turn, all of a sudden, all our creatures come back. So again, hopefully we had a few of them. And we're kind of restarting the game almost, but with, say, like, whatever. A Wall of Omens that just drew us another card, a Charming Prince, whatever. We're starting the game, but with creatures in hand already, or on the battlefield already. So that's how we're taking advantage. Now, to make this a little less janky, a little less all-in, I should say, kind of like the backup plan of the deck, since we're running this 4 of Eerie Interlude as our part of our combo win condition anyway, we might as well try to put it to use in other ways if we can, so it's not as all-in and totally dependent on finding Hibernation plus Eerie Interlude plus Painter's Servant, because that's not going to happen all the time. So we're trying to take advantage of Enter the Battlefield effects, because we can still use Eerie Interlude even without the other 2 pieces of the combo to get some value out of stuff. So the deck is loaded with Enter the Battlefield creatures. So it feels similar to like a Soulherder deck, which I'm actually playing 2 of because why not? But we don't. We're jamming in this goofy combo, so we're not quite down the same path as Soulherder. I'm not playing Bant colors like most of the Soulherder decks. No green. But anyway, so let's talk about the Enter the Battlefield effects. We've got Charming Prince, which is one of the best ones because it's so versatile. When it enters the battlefield, you can choose one of three options. We can either scry 2, which is great, helps us dig to our other combo pieces. We can gain 3 life if we're on the brink of death in an aggressive matchup. We can gain some life, or we can blink another creature. So he's just kind of looping the blinking effect. So Charming Prince is great. Wall of Omens, when it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Again, digging us to make sure we hit our land drops, digging us into our combo pieces, just kind of keeping up our card advantage. It's a great card. It's a nice blocker on the ground, gum up the board, stall for some time. Meddling Mage is an interesting one. When it enters the battlefield, you choose a card name, and spells with that name can't be cast. So this is just a good kind of not really prison, I guess prison-y control piece. There's not a ton of value to bouncing or blinking Meddling Mage, except for the fact that you can reset the card name. Say, you cast him early against a deck that you're not quite sure, you take a guess, and maybe turns out, oh, that's not the deck they're playing. You could blink Meddling Mage and name something new that's more relevant to whatever deck they're actually playing. So we get a couple Meddling Mages. Let's see here. We've got Reflector Mage. When this enters the battlefield, you bounce a creature an opponent controls back to their hand, and then they cannot cast that until our next turn. So great card. It works well with Meddling Mage because we bounce something back, and then we know what's in their hand. So we're not just taking a wild guess with Meddling Mage. We can name whatever we just bounced. So these two play well together. However, it feels bad against very creature-light matchups, control decks, etc. So I only have 2 of them in the main deck. We also have 2 Soulherders. Again, we're not fully on the Soulherder plan, but in a deck built like ours, it does generate some value. It can turn into a big beater. So a couple Soulherders as well. And then Restoration Angel. Restoration Angel is nice because it's a big body in the air, which we struggle with otherwise. We have no other flyers. So it's a 3/4 flyer with flash. When it enters the battlefield, you blink another creature. So again, playing on that enter the battlefield theme, trying to generate value that way. We also have Tribute Mage. When this enters the battlefield, you can search for an artifact card with converted mana cost 2. This is in here mostly to find our Painter's Servants. It's, just a way to help us assemble the combo. But I also threw in a couple other one-ofs to just as other targets. Like, let's say we already have our Painter's Servant and we don't need any more. Then Tribute Mage becomes kind of useless. So I threw in some other options. We have a 1 of Goldmere. If we're missing land drops, we can at least play a Goldmere that kind of acts as a land. It can help ramp us up to the requisite 6 mana to cast Hibernation and Eerie Interlude all in one turn. So we can fetch up a Goldmere if we're hurting on the mana. We also have a 1 of Phyrexian Revoker. This is great in all sorts of different situations. Again, if we already have our Painter's Servant or we're dying to something in particular, we can fetch up a Phyrexian Revoker and play that. This takes care of all kinds of stuff. Planeswalkers, anything with activated abilities. It can shut down like Devoted Druid in that combo deck. There's so many things. You can name Aether Vial. Shuts down the Spirits, Humans, Vial decks. So a 1 of Revoker. Good, just a good target to have in there, especially since it could be tutored. And let's see, is that everything? We got all these guys. Aside from the Eerie Interlude and the Hibernation, there's only one other non-creature spell in the deck. Again, because we want a very high creature count. We want a really high creature density so that when we combo off, we're ideally blinking away, 2, 3, 4 creatures. as many as possible, because when everything gets bounced back to hand, the more creatures we start out with again on the battlefield, the better. The bigger an advantage we have over our opponent. So trying to look for effects stapled to creatures. Like I could play, Vapor Snag, but Reflector Mage is Vapor Snag stapled onto a body. You know what I mean? We want a high creature count, but we also need some interaction, and Path to Exile is just such an efficient removal card. So we've got 4 of those. I mean, we just kind of have to. Our combo isn't that good where we can ignore everything else and go fully all in and not interact. We do need some interaction. Our combo's not that good. So so we got 4 Path to Exile. It's just the best option. And one quick interesting note, Path to Exile and Soulherder is a nice little combo. Because Soulherder says whenever a creature is exiled from the battlefield. So it can be exiled in any way, including by Path to Exile. So just a nice little tidbit there. Talk about the mana base real quick. I mean, it's just a bunch of blue-white dual lands for the most part. The only 2 interesting ones of note are Reliquary Tower and Mutavault. I didn't want to go more than 4 colorless lands because we are pretty heavy on color restrictions. Nothing crazy, but we've got blue-white, blue-white, blue-white. So we don't want to get screwed with a ton of colorless lands. So I've got 4 of them, and I split it 2-2 between Reliquary Tower and Mutavault. Reliquary Tower, the idea is on the turn we bounce everything back to hand. When we combo off, we can make our land drop as Reliquary Tower for the turn, and then since we now have a ton of cards in hand because we just bounced everything back, we don't have to discard them. We can actually keep them in hand. Again, another advantage over our opponent, breaking the symmetry. If they bounce all their stuff back to hand, they might have to end up going to discard at the end of their turn. So a couple Reliquary Towers for that. And then Mutavault, in the off chance we have, if the game goes long, we have, we've got like 7 mana available to us, and Mutavault is one of our lands. We need the 6 for the combo, 3 here, 3 here. And then Mutavault is just a creature or a land that can turn itself into a creature. So if we combo off, we just make Mutavault a creature using itself. And then that's just one more thing that we can blink away with Eerie Interlude. So the Mutavault will not get bounced back to hand. It returns to the battlefield, so now we already have a land on the battlefield. So that's the idea behind Mutavault. And that'll do it for the main deck. Talk about the sideboard real quick. Let's see here. So because we're playing with Tribute Mage, we have a few 1 of 2-drop artifacts that we can tutor up. We have a Damping Sphere for Tron and Storm. We have our Ratchet Bomb, which is actually pretty good in our deck because we don't run a single 1 converted mana cost permanent. So Ratchet Bomb on either 0 for tokens or 1 for like elves, goblins, whatever. We can crack a Ratchet Bomb at 1, and that doesn't affect us at all. So we get a 1 of Ratchet Bomb, a 1 of Spellskite. For the decks that are trying to remove our Painter Servant, removal heavy attrition based decks. Spellskite comes in to protect our Painter Servant. It's also just randomly good against a bunch of other things. Great against Bogles, Infect, even like Hardened Scales Affinity. You can redirect the abilities there. So just randomly good against several different things. We're in white, so we have access to Rest in Peace. We don't care about our graveyard at all in this deck, so Rest in Peace is great against the graveyard decks. Stony Silence comes in against artifact decks. The only thing it affects in our deck is the Spellskite, the Ratchet Bomb, if we happen to be bringing in those things together. In the main deck, I don't think it shuts off anything. No. So Stony Silence, just a great card against the artifact decks. Auriok Champion comes in against mostly burn or goblins or 8-whack, that sort of thing. It's pro black and red, so it's very hard for them to deal with, and it just gains us life, so it keeps us above burn's threshold of killing us, because we play a ton of creatures, so we're gaining life that way, and then not so much in burn, but in like goblins, they're playing a ton of creatures as well, so we end up gaining quite a bit of life with Auriok Champion. A couple more Meddling Mage. We're really going to struggle against the control matchups, I think. So this is just something else we can bring in to try to mess with them. It's also great against the combo decks. We can just name their key combo piece and they cannot cast it. And then we have a one of Sword of Feast and Famine. It's just kind of a good card. We'll bring it in especially against black-green, like Jund rock decks, because it's protection from their deck, almost. And we're naming green with Painter Servant anyway, so this can give our creatures protection, even if they're not playing green. If we name green with Painter Servant, it gets the protection. It's a good way to protect the Painter Servant itself against those type of decks. We can equip it with the Sword of Feast of Famine, then it's protected. Makes it harder to remove. So just a one of there. Can't be tutored by. We don't have Stoneforge Mystic. It's 3 converted mana cost, so Tribute Mage can't find it. And finally, a one of Settle the Wreckage. We are heavily creature-based deck, so we don't want to run like Wrath of God or anything like that. We want a one-sided board wipe, so this comes in against humans, spirits, anything super aggressive creature-based. And that is everything. This deck is definitely going to be fun. I really, really, really hope we can get the combo off at least once. I have the feeling we're not going to do great. Like, I have the feeling every game we're gonna like grind out some value, do decently well, get really close to the combo, and then probably just lose. So I have the feeling there's going to be a lot of close ones, but we'll see. You never know. I hope you guys enjoy the videos. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.